My name is Meerah, and I am a Lorekeeper in one of Yogg-Sothoth's libraries. Today, I wanted to talk about one of the many fascinating locations in the Lovecraft mythos. As usual, we'll be continuing our tour of the Dreamlands, and today's topic of discussion is the region of Kaar in the northern part of the Dreamlands. Kaar is the safest region of the northern continent, with its main settlements being the cities of Inquanok and Vornai. The region is known for being separated by the dangerous plateau of Ling by a range of mountains and a rocky wasteland. Our tour of the region begins in what I consider to be the capital personally, the port city of Inquanok. It is ruled by the Veiled King, whose palace is in the middle of the city, topped by a giant, translucent, possibly glass, dome. Nearby, also in the city center, is a number of impressive gardens that surround the Temple of the Elder Gods. It is described as a 16-sided round building with 16 columns and 16 gates and 16 houses or shrines out from those gates. It sounds lovely, honestly. The seaside city's main export is onyx, which is mined nearby. The mining town of Rig is one such place. It's close to Inquanok, and its inhabitants are reported to be very rude, probably due to the horrible working conditions in the onyx mines, as well as being unable to go outside at night because of the Nightgaunts. Nightgaunts are a kind of flying creature that to me invoke like the image of a gargoyle. The town of Rig has no form of government, as all of the residents are either miners or a few traders. Rig is simply just managed by the merchant who happens to run the mines at the time, which is probably another reason that people are pretty rude. From Rig, a path ascends up into the hills and ends at a chasm that many a silly traveler has fallen off the edge of. Near the onyx mines is the Giant's Quarry, an onyx quarry that is fabled to have been scooped out by the earth gods or the great ones themselves in order for them to build their onyx tower on Kadath. The pit is about 5 miles wide, 10 miles in length, and 2 miles deep. It's huge. The reason for this belief is that if you look closely at the landscape, there are like markings in the onyx that indicate giant hands and feet along with giant chisel marks that no like normal sized creature could have possibly made, you know? Thus, its name, the Giant's Quarry, is apt. It's avoided by miners, despite the onyx there, due to it being infested with Shantaks, as if the, rumor of it being made by gods wasn't deterrent enough. Shantaks are like huge dragonish creatures. They're described as like a mix between a bat and a bird. As you can see here, this artist's rendition, they look pretty freaky, right? Like, you'd run from that. I'd run from that. Give it its respect, give it its space. Those Shantaks are the prey of Nightgaunts. So imagine how scary Nightgaunts must be. Goodness. Shantaks mostly live in the cold waste and the rock desert. Connected through a cavernous route is the small town of Silarn, a very quaint wooden brick town, but also a very mysterious and funny town that is described as being fuzzy, which is something I've never heard a place or a town described as. And also described as not actually being there. The prince who lives there is reported to be incredibly anxious all the time about the weird things that are happening in his town, and he can't really do anything about it. Apparently, streets and buildings will appear out of nowhere and will house parades of like laughing, bony, rattling, cackling creatures in the dead of night. I would be unnerved too, goodness gracious. At the end of the cavern route from Inquanok is the city of Vornai, situated in the plains of Kaar. Vornai is described as having wide avenues, spired palaces, and domed temples, similar in architecture to Inquanok, but not as large or grandiose. Onyx is also not as prevalent in the construction here as it is in Inquanok, though it is still imported and used. The city is surrounded by onyx walls, with 8 gates along it. The city is ruled by Mayor Korth, who is a cautious and perhaps a bit superstitious man, who is reported to literally do nothing without first consulting his 5 augurs. Despite this, the city itself is not as religiously focused as Inquanok, and while it does indeed revere all of the gods of the Dreamlands, its main goddess is Nitzikambi. She is an elder goddess whose splendor hath shattered worlds, and is depicted as a beautiful woman in flowing cloth, holding a spear and shield. She is worshipped in Vornai, but also by the priests of youth. Some researchers hint that she may be the one responsible for the creation of the Elder elder sign, which is like, I don't know, kind of a big deal, you know? In the Book of Ebon, if one is to attempt to call upon her protection, they have to do their ritual atop a very tall hill or tower with at least 8 people present. If one were to exit out of the Gate of the Mists, you could see a lone hill, and on that hill would sit the House of the Worm, as it has always sat. It is said that before even the first stones were laid in Vornai, the hill and its 5 black pillars and house atop it stood strong. The pillars are, in truth, part of an elder sign, perhaps the very first elder sign, placed by Nitsi Kambi to seal the sleeping Great Ones away from the Dreamlands. Shh, this is a secret, however, as not even the priests of Vornai are fully aware of the house's true purpose. It's merely a rumor. It's just between us. Wink, wink. Vornai is also known as being the only ones who have direct trade with the town of Ishara. Ishara is a small town with a huge wealth disparity problem. The nearby gold mines have enriched the upper class so that one half of the town is literally full of palaces, while the other half is a shanty town for those who work the mines. These people are practically slaves to the dukes, honestly, and it's awful. The dukes control everything: the mines, trade, food, tools, housing, the clothes on the miners' backs, everything. And thus the poor miners must pay them to survive and for the privilege of mining. Getting to Ishara is a very cheap trip, but getting out is impossibly expensive. Sounds honestly like a place you would not really want to go. Separating the northern plains of Kaar and the plateau of Ling is the Rock Desert, a wasteland inhabited by the Shantaks, who I mentioned earlier. The only thing to see here are the Watchers in the Waste, incredible hyena-like towering statues placed there by Nyarlathotep himself to guard the gateway to the Cold Waste, thus protecting the entrance to Kadath. It is said that if the Shantaks do not deter travelers, the Watchers will, for the Watchers are indeed alive, in deep hibernation until some reckless adventurer should stumble upon them. Death is really the only result of an encounter with the Watchers, I'm gonna be honest, so just steer clear and go no further than the hills near Vornai. Just my personal advice if you value your life. Yep. And that's about it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thanks, as always, to my lovely channel members. May you all wear and I hope to see you all next time here in the library.